Hi there, and welcome to Let's Slow Down, a podcast for all of you who feel tired and stressed from this overwhelming world. Here we'll have fun, inspiring conversations about living life on our own terms and explore ways to ease the pace of our modern world, because life really is good when you're relaxed enough to be present for it. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Stolting, and I welcome you to this space where I hope to inspire you to slow down, because life is too short to let it go by in a blur. So take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy the show. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to thank everyone who has already purchased my new book, Let's Slow Down: The Art of Simple, Intentional Living. If you haven't yet, it's available on Amazon in both ebook and paperback formats. And if fall feels overwhelming and super busy with back-to-school season and everything that comes with it, I invite you to consider signing up for one of my Slow Down mini sessions. In these sessions, we'll work together to create a personalized plan that fits your life and helps you rediscover the peace and balance you're seeking. That calm is still there beneath all the busyness. For more information, visit letslowdown.net/work with me. Now let's jump into today's show. Welcome to another episode of the Let's Slow Down podcast. Today, our guest is Ryan Bell, a startup founder aiming to build the most student-centric well-being solution, whose focus is on making it easier for students to improve their well-being. Since the pandemic, Ryan has supported the well-being of over 1,000 students, and his startup, Tech Balance, has been backed on 3 occasions by the government's innovation agency, Innovate UK. Ryan, you're currently working with students and universities to co-create an engaging student well-being app for higher education, and we are so excited to hear all about this. Ryan's coming to us from England, so welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the nice introduction as well. Happy to be here.
We met on LinkedIn, and he's testing out his app, and I've had a chance to try it. So we'll certainly be talking about that a lot today. But I'd love to hear a little bit about what inspired you to create your company and focus on well-being.
Prior to the company not existing, I was working in a very different space. I was working as an Earth observation engineer in the space industry, so entirely different sector. And then, the pandemic hit, and I started working from home. And at that time, there was a lot of completely remote working during lockdown, also spending a lot of time online, both through work, but also social media and competitive gaming. And really that kind of inundation of content all the time and being super busy and not having time to socialize or see friends or do anything else, my well-being just really kind of took a toll. So I started to look for better solutions to manage my screen time originally, and found it really hard. So started trying to create my own and doing some research, and was really lucky that at the same time, our UK government here had a funding competition for young people like myself that were looking to address some of society's most challenging problems. And I was really lucky to win some funding there. And that kind of started the journey of helping to solve sort of my own problems that I was facing during the pandemic. And then to think about, broadening those out for other young people like myself.
I love it. I feel like so many things start by us kind of doing some soul searching and identifying an issue in our own life. I mean, I know that was the impetus of this podcast too. I just felt like things were so busy. I needed to find another way. I wanted to have conversations about it and highlight it, just as you're doing with your business and being. So I love it, because in helping ourselves work through some of these things, we can also help others, and it's really fulfilling, and there's a need for it. So I think it's a great idea. I recently heard some statistics on screen time, and it's something like, I think it's over 3 hours a day that most adults, this is adults, so I mean, younger people is probably even higher, but spending at least 3 hours a day. And one thing said 3 hours a day just on Netflix alone, which kind of blew my mind. I mean, how could anyone have time for that? But there is a lot of screen time happening, and it certainly needs to be managed, and I think people are addicted to it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you really. And I think, the interesting thing is for some people, high screen time is it's not necessarily a problem for them, if it's something that's super productive or it's something you're really passionate about. But I think certainly in my case and others I spoke to, when it starts to creep into other aspects of your life that are important. So it starts impacting your work or your studies or, how you're connecting with friends or family or looking after any kind of key aspects of your well-being, then it becomes a problem. And I think that's true for a lot of people, unfortunately.
I like how you said it creeps in because it does. All of a sudden, we're not really aware of it. And all of a sudden, it's taking up so much time and affecting us in ways that we don't truly realize or recognize. And that's scary because we can kind of go down a path that we had no intention of going down and find ourselves not feeling as great as we could be. So how does the app make it easier to maintain your well-being?
Yeah. So I can tell you what I did a little bit before the app we have now, actually, which is maybe interesting or sets the stage to this. So I
Sure.
spent a few years actually around research and education and coaching for young people to help them become more aware of their screen time and develop like a better relationship with it. And this was literally going into schools and colleges, educating people and giving them tools to do it. And I also worked on an app that was specifically around this as well, that focused on challenges to, cut down your screen time. And what I found there was that for the most part, it wasn't really about the screen time itself for anyone, or at least for the people that I was speaking to. It was more, these other aspects of life that they cared about that they were not really seeing to because they were distracting themselves with screens or, procrastinating on things. And so with the app now, rather than focus on screen time itself, we focus more on these kind of like these core aspects of well-being. I think people should be prioritizing on a daily basis. And we've tried to make this super simple because everyone's really busy and doing too many things. And you're often told that, you should be doing more. In actual fact, I think really you should be doing less, both in a personal and professional sense to move forward more quickly. So in the app, we help our users do that by focusing on three core pillars of well-being. So the first is about connecting better with your body. So this relates to physiological well-being, how you're eating, moving, and sleeping. The second is how you connect with people. So friends, family, loved ones, etc. We're all quite social beings. And the third one is about how you connect with yourself. So once your body's in order and your social needs are met, how you meeting your individual needs, whether that's around self-care or something around self-development or growth focused. And we only let people pick one thing per day. So I guess one of the differences in our app beyond the structure is that it's more about prioritizing what really matters for you, what's most important and going to move the needle forward. It doesn't include anything that's necessarily kind of related to work or studies. It's just about yourself and your well-being and focusing on these kind of priorities and what we see these kind of key areas.
Keeping it simple to me is so much, it's just better. I think it sets people up for success. It makes it more manageable. When things get too complicated, we kind of just, I know at least I shut down and it feels like this daunting thing and this extra chore that we're adding to our life. But when it's something really simple that is going to make a difference, be impactful right away, it's doable and it's going to make people turn to it more and keep it consistent. I think consistency is important with these types of habits.
I agree, and I think especially in the tech space as well. Or even if you're not in the tech space, you're kind of competing for the attention of people that are in the tech space, whether it's Netflix or social media or anything else. It is really important to keep things simple and easy to do, and also for young people, and I think probably for everyone. There's a lot of responsibilities and there's a lot of sources of stress in life, so it really does make sense to focus on these potentially quite easy things, but just making sure that they're prioritized, because if they're not over time, then you get a whole kind of range of problems start occurring. So that's why we're focusing on it.
And I do want to mention that your app is geared towards university students. I think you said ages 18 to 25, but I've been testing it out. And as I've been testing it out, and I've benefited from it, I've been thinking that my teenage children could benefit from it as well. So I really do think that there's something for everyone here. I certainly see how beneficial it could be for students, but overall, I think this app is really for anybody who wants to prioritize their well-being and just focus on things that are important. I love your three core pillars. I feel like if we don't have some sort of a balance and sanity and foundation in those areas and feel grounded in those areas, then forget about the rest. I mean, this stuff trickles into everything else that we do. And not that we need to, you know, mark our success or our worth by what we do in our to-do list, but it does help us be more productive where we want to be and where we need to be. So I think it's great. You talked about connecting to body, people, and yourself. Why don't you give everyone just a little background on each of those three pillars and the types of things that the app suggests we do to connect in those areas?
Yeah, sure. So for the body category, if you're to choose this in the app, you'll see some different tags essentially that you can filter by. And we have suggestions here of things that you can kind of do like pretty much immediately and will be quite quick and beneficial for you. So say for instance, like taking 3 deep breaths, or some things that maybe take a little bit longer, but maybe something you want to prioritize, like going to the gym. The categories for body around eating, moving, sleeping, and then we have another category that's just around household. So I think if you're someone that sometimes finds that your room's a bit messy, or you want to tidy up around the house and you're kind of putting it off, it really does help with your energy to have that kind of clean and tidy environment. So you can choose between any of the goals here, and
And
then just pick.
Ryan, I do want to interrupt because I have had so many guests on that talk about the psychological benefits of decluttering and keeping a cleaner, tidier environment, whatever that looks like for each person. I know it's very unique, but there is really something to it. And, even sitting at a desk, if your desk is super cluttered and you've got that pile of papers that you've been looking at for a month, they affect you. They weigh heavy on your mind. And I feel like I'm just so glad that you incorporated that into that section because I think that there are such benefits to be gained from it. So totally agree with that one. And I will choose that one regularly, actually.
I agree, and I often pick it myself. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much the first category, and with these options here, you can customize these as well. So, for instance, we have some suggestions about going taking like a 20-minute walk. If that's just 5 minutes for you, or you wanted to change that up, you can change that. And then in the second pillar, we have people. So here the categories at the moment are kind of around friends or family or things to do with kindness or giving to others. And it's all really kind of centered around how you're connecting with other people. It may also include, just kind of connecting with strangers, reaching out to friends. And there's a bit of a mix there. And then in the self category, this is kind of split into things that might be around sort of self care, like might be listening to your favorite song, or scheduling some time for yourself or your favorite self care activity, or practicing gratitude, and also some things on self development, which might be around learning a new skill or focusing on a hobby that you like. It's all very flexible. What I would say is that interestingly, people have been using this in different ways actually to myself. So when I use this, I kind of think about like, what's the number one thing I could be doing today that's going to make like the biggest difference for me? Is there something that I need to maybe start doing, or something I should stop doing, or I should be doing something differently? Other people are mostly not doing that. So they choose things that actually they're kind of like already doing, but maybe they want to be a bit more consistent on, or just to give themselves a bit of a pat on the back. Or they come in and think, oh, do you know what? I've kind of got half hour spare on this day, or I've got 15 minutes spare. I just want some inspiration of ways that I can get like a boost to my well-being here. And they'll use it as like a source of inspiration.
Those are all great. And I think that the bottom line is it's bringing awareness to this. And like you said, some people are using it, they're already sort of doing these things pretty regularly, but it's making them aware of it and focusing on it. And I think that's half the battle sometimes, just slowing down enough to be present and aware of what we need right now. So I love that you mentioned that there's a lot of flexibility to it. And on any given day refuse like exercise as an example. Depending on the day, we have very different amounts of time to devote to it. And we also have to account for the fact that we're human and we feel different each day. I mean, some days you wake up and you've got all the energy in the world, you're ready to do a hard workout, and that's what is appropriate that day and that's what you crave. But there's other days where maybe that 5, 10 minute walk around in the neighborhood is all the energy you can muster and all the time you have. And that's okay too. So I used to always push through. And if I told myself I need to do a hard workout where I'm sweating and really like out of breath and just really pushing it, and I have to do that 5 days a week, I would feel like a failure if maybe I only got in 3 that week because life gets in the way. But it's all perspective, right? And the way we look at things. And well, maybe if you had 10 minutes of yoga one day instead of that hard workout, you still were able to move your body, connect to your body, get some exercise, and do something healthy. You're not failing. Or maybe you needed a nap that day and that was how you took care of your body. So I think that this tweaks our mindset a little bit around a lot of these, philosophies. And I really think it's great. It really is interesting how different people use it in different ways and probably ways you never expected, right?
Yeah, that's right. And one of the things that you mentioned there about kind of having these goals that are set in advance, which I think is fairly common for apps that, tracking habits or you're trying to work towards building streaks. That's one thing that we've intentionally actually avoided for now. So actually you can only set goals for the day. So some people like setting goals in the morning or some people like setting them the day before. And so you can set it for the next day. And I think with that, I think you're right that it kind of takes you away a little bit from most this feeling like you failed if you've done 3, yoga sessions a week and not 4 when actually, you've done really well. Things change and they crop up. So I think there is a lot of value to taking the day as it comes and also having that flexibility to be able to change. So whilst you might have a day that's, not that great, is there something that you could do that's going to help prioritize like your diet or spending time with friends if maybe you've been like stuck indoors all day kind of by yourself. So I think it's good to have that flexibility and you can still kind of work towards these streaks, but it's just a case of being more mindful and giving more opportunity. Also prioritize what's most important at the time. Often it changes.
Sure does. And having that priority of having these one thing in each of these areas and only three total is great because we end up having these crazy lists of unreasonable expectations that we put on ourselves. They end up taking away from the now and from being present and from focusing on what we actually need in the moment and in the day. And I think we forget sometimes that the things that we're doing today are setting us up for tomorrow. So let's say, feel like we're getting sick, feel like a cold is coming. Well, if we push through it today and check off all the things that we plan to and don't account for the fact that we woke up and don't feel well, then tomorrow we're probably going to be like really sick. Whereas if we paid attention today and said, oh, my body doesn't feel good, I'm going to give it what it needs. I'm going to rest. I'm going to maybe cancel some things, some appointments, and I'm going to take care of myself. Then maybe tomorrow you will wake up feeling better. I think that's why it's so important to be present because we think it's taking away from the future, but it's actually making the future better in so many ways.
Yeah, for sure. And, the other option is if you don't do that, what tends to happen is you kind of say yes to everything. And before you know it, you're not really making progress in the ways that you want to. And you're probably going to be letting yourself down and probably others down as well. So I think it really is important to prioritize it. And I think today we live in a world where there's so many demands and pulls on you to do lots of things and grab your attention that if you don't actually take ownership of that yourself and spend some time to really kind of set priorities in order, then yeah, the alternative is that you're just not really going to be living the life that you want.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm so glad that you're choosing to highlight this, creating this app called Balance. Balance can be, I know some people don't like to use that word. I do. I try to aim for that in my life because I think that I don't think it's ever perfect. I think it's a constant work in progress. It's a journey, but striving to focus on all of those different areas and achieve some sort of balance, even though it's going to look different every day, I think is a great goal for us and helps keep us grounded, keep our 2 feet on the ground and living in the moment. Because So easy, as you said, to get caught up, and then we miss out. We miss out on the today, and today's what we have, right? Tomorrow's not a given, so helps us live it fully. I like to ask all of my guests as we wind down, what is one or some of your favorite ways to slow down right now? Because you are a startup founder, so I'm sure you are very busy, even though this is your topic that you focus on. So how do you slow down? How do you do it?
It's a good question. So I do a couple things. I think one of the things that I do most regularly that's very beneficial for me is just going for a walk at lunch, basically without my phone or any kind of distractions and just by myself. And usually there's no one over this field that's nearby where I live. So I can just kind of go through and I just sort of let whatever thoughts sort of come to me. And it helps slow down really because at that point you kind of have the headspace just to be sort of thinking freely. Doesn't need to be about any kind of particular problem or anything work related or otherwise, but yeah, you can just kind of go there. And I think that helps to ground me. And the other thing I do, which maybe sounds like I'm plugging the app a little bit, but I do it. In this case, actually, I do this for work in particular, but I write down kind of the top three things that I need to prioritize on a given day. This isn't around the pillars of the app. This is actually just work focused. By doing that in the morning, it just helps me kind of say, okay, here's kind of these key things. Some days there may be two or just one, if it's like a bigger task. And then I can just push other things aside. So, I guess most people use their calendars. I will just put this stuff into my calendar, and it just means that things don't necessarily creep, outside of work hours into personal time.
I love that. You're wise, well beyond your years, Ryan. You're
Oh,
setting yourself up for
yeah.
lots of success. Yes. No, thank you. So interesting. So where can everybody find you? Where can everybody find the app? I know as we're talking today, it's still in beta, but I think that it's supposed to be coming out fairly soon.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. Name's Ryan Bell. I not overly active. I post occasionally, so whether that's a good thing or not, I'm not sure. But and then in terms of the company itself and where you can find us, so we have a LinkedIn page called Tech Balance. We have a website which is techbalance.co.uk. If you're interested in the app and would like to try it out, there's a link that you can click there to sign up, and we can email you to give you early access to the beta. If you'd like to reach out to me personally, you can do so over email, which is brian.bell@techbalance.co.uk.
Great. And I'll link all of that in the show notes for everyone. So don't worry about frantically writing this stuff down. It'll be in the show notes and people can connect to you there and check out the app. So Ryan, thanks for all the work you're doing in this world. It's important. And I wish you lots of success with your app and your company. And thank you for being here today.
Yep. Thank you very much for having me.
I hope you've enjoyed our journey together. Please take a moment to rate and review the show. It really helps us grow and reach others looking to slow down too. Wishing you simplicity and ease in your world, and I'll see you back here next week.